get the other side of it, Christy. You
I
know.
know. He always talks, whenever I say hi to you, he's always like, worlds colliding.
Yep,
Bubbles.
the
The
bubbles.
bubbles.
The bubbles are colliding.
They don't. I don't think I need to say anymore about
I
that.
don't I don't
Capitalistic society. Uh-oh. Accept all cookies. Have you been to the WEF website before, Christy?
Briefly, when it was a long time ago when I was engaging with people who were telling me that they wanted to make us all communists.
Yeah, that's it. That's a popular misconception, of course. I've so it's a free website, and to navigate through the website, it's quite fun. They've made it interactive, and then they focus on sustainable development goals, and they personalize it to you. So, like, you'll tell them what you're interested in, what part of the sustainable development goals you want to watch, and then they'll invite you to forums and questions, and then they'll give you briefings and progress reports. But it's all done in like this like completely like museum sort of interactive website where you click and go and open up different portals to different conversations, researches, and stuff like that. I've been enjoying it myself. Thanks to Sahand for showing it to me. It's great. Um, and yeah, so like you go through it and you can get the actual information as it relates to sustainable development goals, and you can focus on the ones that are most important to you. You can go ahead and open it up and uh, and check out everything that they want to be. There's links to all of their socials and current events. I do encourage people to go and see this website. It's weforum.org. It's free. Enroll. They don't hack you. They don't take your information. Um, Anyone can be a member of the WEF. Yeah, yeah. So you just go and sign up, and then they'll tell you what's going on, and you can personalize the whole website just for you.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. It's good. Oh, and the live meetings are great. So when they have like a forum or a summit, they'll stream it to the website, and you can watch it as it goes. So like the Davos meetings and stuff like that.
Yeah, the ones that we always hear about them because there's always not always, but I think very often there's a very scary rumor going around. And I remember when the rumor was that Justin Trudeau was going to sell the country to the WEF. Um,
There's that one.
but here's the thing. Here's the thing. If when I'm going back and I'm thinking about all of the things that I challenged as conspiracy theories back in 2022, um, a lot of those rumors are relevant to what's happening today. They just had the wrong people, right?
Oh,
Somebody is trying to buy our
yeah.
country. I'm
Is it
just saying.
ever is it ever right? Um,
No,
and
Oscar.
and
They said sell. They said sell. Like they said, he was going to sign the
so
papers, and they were going to sell, not sell out. Words are important.
words are
That was
important.
by design. Yep. Everything is intentional, eh?
It is. And so
It
like
is.
one of my things is like I always ask people, "Oh, cool, what's your problem with the WEF?" And then they make these really weird like quotes, like they'll quote things that they see in passing on social media or just like a thumbnail or some kind of meme, and it's you'll own nothing and be happy, or you're going to be eating crickets by 2030, or one thing or the other. It's taking it with suppressing voices and stuff like that. And I find it fun to go through and just you know dismantle those arguments. The two sustainable development goals we focused on a couple of weeks ago was the access to quality education and gender equality. Those were the two starting ones. They're four and five on the sustainable development goals. I think there's like 30 of them. I can't remember how many. There's quite a few, and how that affects indirectly and directly. And then we looked at uh, Malawi, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, the
No.
country, and how once education became available to women and girls, they were able to elevate themselves out of those desperate situations, and how they reach back. And the thing that we were touching on as we left last week or last show was how that relates to reserves in Canada and access to education and gender equality across Canada, and in reserves, and do the sustainable development goals apply to reserves, because reserves are in Canada versus entire countries that are devastated by exploitation or tyrannical autocratic rule, um, you know and are we turning a blind eye to the needs of First Nations people because of the, not propaganda, but the messaging of institutions like the WEF. That's kind of where we left off.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know, but gender equality and access to quality education were the two main points. You had an interest in SDGs as well, if I'm not mistaken, or the WEF. Yeah. So what do you think of that? Do you think it's an
There
irrational?
you're back.
Hey,
Was I frozen?
you were frozen?
Was I? I thought you were frozen.
Was I frozen?
I don't know. You were frozen to me.
It's possible. I'm looking up at my phone, and it seems like, is it lagging? I don't know. We were talking about like the sustainable development goals and how they apply to Canada and stuff like that, and the success rate around the world, what it's done for other countries, and why it's been overlooked in Canada, and why Canada's been so vocal about ensuring that they were available in underdeveloped countries, yet not being able to commit the same kind of efforts to our country here. And who does it leave behind? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, my son's coming up to cause a ruckus. All right, buddy.
Lego?
Very cool. You built the mech?
Yeah. Your plate.
Yeah, you can put it over there, bro.
For dessert.
It won't be but a minute here.
That's okay.
Aw,
What are you having for dessert?
this.
Is
Mamma mia.
sure. But take it upstairs. Take the whole thing upstairs. You don't need to do that here. You don't put it in your mouth.
Now give me my Lego back. Where's my Lego?
It's over here, bro.
Give me.
Hey. Tread lightly. Don't put that in your mouth. Don't put it in your mouth.
Okay.
He put it in his mouth when he thought I couldn't. It better not be in your mouth.
I had to go on mute because I know that laughing just encourages them, but it was funny.
Oh, he's amazing. He's got a lot of piss and vinegar. That's for sure. That's for sure. It's always
It's good.
it was interesting to see some of the priorities for the WEF and sustainable development goals are bringing like clean water and sanitation, health, and access to affordable clean energy, and then gender equality, and of course access to quality education. That doesn't mean access to education. What primarily why that would focus on reserves is because we have a curricula in Canada that does not necessarily include all of the history behind what transpired, during that era of residential schools and colonization.
Well, when I was in school, it was still happening. Like I think the last one closed down in '89. I want to say '89. Is that right?
96 is the last one that closed, if I'm not mistaken, but it wasn't active as the one before it. Like they weren't you know,
96. Thanks. Um, I don't
yeah,
know why I thought 89, but yeah, no, I was already out of school by 96. I was already in my career by 96. They just moved it to foster care. Yeah, good point. And if you look at the stats out of, I want to say Winnipeg, yeah, Winnipeg, the amount of Indigenous children who make up the foster care system is the numbers are not representative of their size of community compared to their population.
yeah, and it seems to me like people like to talk about, you know, cult like behavior and why can't you ever say anything bad about the people you support, but you know, whereas I have spoken about certain issues, and you know, and I do have problems with the government and the administration that, you know, Trudeau ran, and some of it has to do with this oversight, you know, this uh, you know, there's big changes that happen under that administration towards reconciliation and truth. But I think there's also large oversights as far as self-governance and autonomy, and again through the education system and like funding for those systems and empowering communities to really lift themselves up out of situations or put themselves into, you know, I don't know, other situations, I guess, because it's not always out of desperation. It's just a matter of redirecting the funding, right? And people still have good, high quality lives, but just don't have access to their history and stuff like that. You have the contract with the liaison. I have the emails. Emmy goes,
And I
well,
agree that education, like when what we see going on, and I know we don't want to go into the states, but we see what's happening in the states, right? And he's
yeah,
dismantling the Department of Education. I think that education is your your best path forward to a better life than what your parents had in
exactly.
in general. And now being said, I'm also critical of the post-secondary education system in Canada. First of all, I think it should be free. Look at how
Hmm.
many countries are able to pull it off for free, and I think that often it's a money machine. I think that if you look at some of the degrees, some of the courses that you have to pay for in order to get a degree that have no relevance to what you're getting your degree on, I think that kind of stuff is a money grab. I think that if it takes so many years, would that be able, is it all necessary? I don't know. I think I see how much they pay, and
Yeah.
then I see how much they're making getting out of it, and then then you have this this big population of people who are in debt just because of their education, and I don't think that that should be it. I think honestly, I think Canada should pay for it just like half the European countries pay for it.
And I think I agree with you to an extent. I think like when you specialize or when you go into different levels of medicine or you know, certain areas of medicine, maybe that would be out of pocket. Or I actually I don't really care. Like I think it should. I think we should work towards it being all paid for sure, somehow, some way. And I think that education is the fastest way to get people out of poverty or situations of you know, revolving door situations where they can't elevate themselves beyond what they were born into. I think education really does pave the way for that. Uh, you know, if it was free, I would love it, and I think a lot more people would buy into it. But I just don't see like I see a lot of obstructionism, you know, and even within the Liberal Party, and I feel like that could be an issue going forward with that. But whittling away and taking little chunks out as much as we can over and over again until we get to a point where it is free is probably a good start. It trades as well. Trades are that was actually what brought this up. Is like you streamline education systems so that the things that you need are free. So like if you need certain trades like electricians or carpenters, those would be fast tracked and say like, okay, those courses should you pass are free, or should you have a GPA level or should you get accepted and remain, those are free. And then when those areas are full and there's a need for something else, shift it over to that. I mean, whatever it takes, really.
So that's how you would make certain jobs more attractive, by making the education to get them free.
Yeah, exactly. And then
So I
sometimes
understand that, especially when
the
you have,
gateway, right? Like just
yeah,
the
you,
gateway.
sorry.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I think they have certain, for healthcare, for instance, like I know a friend of mine paid a fraction of what people in the city paid to become a nurse, because she was becoming a nurse in an area that wasn't popular for people to live in. Like it's popular for people to live in the city.
Yeah.
But she didn't have to pay as much because she was becoming a nurse. Well, do you remember that TV show Northern Exposure,
Northern
where
Exposure. Yeah. I
yeah,
love that show.
I think that, and I think that there's signing bonuses now for healthcare professionals for the interior of BC, because I know that the interior has such a shortage. Like they're closing ERs here and there, and then it's not like the city. Like if they close an ER near me, I have 3 others I can get to within the same time it takes me to get to that one, because I'm in a city.
Exactly.
But if you're in a small town in the interior and they shut one down, like you're driving hours to the next town. So I know that, and I know in order to try to fill the voids, they're offering like things like signing bonuses. I believe, don't quote me on that because I'm not in the industry, but I know that their education is cheaper when they're going to be when they. But you have to commit to being a nurse in these areas for a certain amount of time,
Yeah,
and that was a
exactly.
while ago too.
I mean, you have to pay back somehow. You have to figure out a way where it becomes worth it. And then
See, if I ran the world though, or if I ran Canada, this is like, Christie's gig. I'm making everything free, all post-secondary. I look at the degree it takes to become an accountant with the exact same way I look at trade school to become a plumber. I think both careers are valid, both are, instrumental to society and the education in order how to get there. I don't know why it's looked at different, honestly. To me, it's the same. And so for me, I would make everything free instead of just making money on teaching people how to enter the workforce.
yeah, I wouldn't make it so that we were profiting. I think there's a difference between paying for a service and having it be all goes back, like a non-governmental organization, not-for-profit organization still costs money, but the money goes back into the system type thing. I would prefer your way. If that were attainable, I think that would
There you
be
go, Christy for PM. Thank you very much.
something we should work towards. Costing my kid a fortune for what, did you say?
To become an electrician.
Yeah.
I know people who've become electricians and it wasn't that much, but it could, honestly, here's another thing. Is it different province from province? Because you have different regulations from province to province. So is the education different from province to province? And like, if you're a licensed electrician in Ontario, how easy is it for you to get work in British Columbia? I don't know.
It's also buying the tools and the supplies. So like HVAC technician first year is really expensive because you need to buy all of the startup stuff. And I think they only accept a certain level, like a certain type of laptop and all that other stuff. And I think your first year as an HVAC student can be like upwards of $7,000 versus your second year, which is a fraction of the price, and then third year. But you can be working after first year as an HVAC tech, and you could be, you can start your own business after your third year, I think. But yeah, HVAC is really high in paying stuff.
But I think in general, people don't talk about the trades enough. When they talk about post-secondary, the entire conversation for a lot of people, not for everybody, but for a lot of people, the entire conversation is directed at university and college, and nobody talks about the trades. And they talk about just sort of like white collar
AutoCAD.
education and not, yeah. And I don't know why. Like, I honestly, I don't.
I met that were
To
going
me,
for,
it's the same thing, man.
yeah, they were going for business admin and not AutoCAD. It was macroeconomics was a big one when I was in school. So I never saw the point in that either. But
Dang. Yeah, remember when I was talking about the ERs closing? Feral Gremlin just said Clearwater, BC. I know where that is. Great, great waterfalls near there in a national park. Anyways, small town, their ER closes. It's a 2-hour drive.
right, and I
What's
don't
the
think
park that I'm thinking of that's right by Clearwater
I'm not sure.
with all the waterfalls? It's famous. I camped there. It was awesome.
A national park by Clearwater.
Yeah, waterfalls. Wells Gray. Thank you. Wells Gray.
Oh, they went down to Florida here. There's a Clearwater, Florida, where Moccasin Lake Nature Park is there. That's hilarious.
So another thing, another reason that I think education is important isn't just for setting you up for success in order to make money at a career or to give back to society. It isn't even just that, it's to protect you.
Yeah.
I think that when you aren't as educated, you don't have as much of a shield against the bullshit, against people trying to scam you or any other ill intent.
It's funny
I
you
think
say
that's
it
your
like
best
that.
shield.
Yeah, it's funny you say it like that because that's what I told my son. He was struggling with learning how to read before he was diagnosed. Um, and now he's fucking amazing. But anyways, I told him that once you learn how to read, it's a lot harder for people to take advantage of you, right? It's harder for people to lie to you, is what I said. Once you're able to read and understand what you're reading, you're stronger for it. Exercise. I tell him the Cesar Millan thing: eat, sleep, exercise, and part of the exercise is your brain.
Yep.
So we worked through that with him, and it really helped him motivate himself, to learn how to do these things.
It's funny. I had a similar talk with my dad recently, my 83-year-old dad, about how important it is to exercise your brain and your body, as he's 83
Yeah.
and
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. I remember the conversation that I had a lot of challenges, and I challenged a lot of people about Soji. Remember when everybody was protesting Soji and making videos about Soji? Almost nobody talks about it anymore. But anyways, after all of those videos that I've done, and I've done hundreds of videos about people who harm children, I strongly believe that the absolute best shield is education. And people don't want to talk about it with kids and stuff, and they don't think it's appropriate to talk about it with kids. I think it's important to give kids a shield.
100%.
And not just in that way, like in not just your shield from that, but your shield overall of bullshit means you don't have to trust people when you understand how to find information yourself and how to process information yourself.
That's exactly right. That's 100% the messaging that I was trying to get through to my son, and I hope I did, and I hope he liked it.
While you were stealing his Lego, give me my Lego back.
Give me my Lego back. He came to show me his Lego. He was bragging about how nice it was, and I was like, "Oh yeah, show me." And then he went and got something to eat and forgot his Lego. Like, give me back my Lego.
Did you know that Jeff does Legos live?
I do actually. I've watched him a couple of times with Quinn.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, he's seen him a couple of times. I think he does. Quinn learned how to do something from Jeff. I don't let him go on, but we watched it together because it's pretty.
Yeah.
Like Jeff's lives are pretty vanilla. So we did that, and what was it that he learned? A spaceship, I think. I think he learned how to do like a little rocket ship from Jeff.
I absolutely love how much Jeff loves Lego. Like, he's a different guy when he talks about his Lego. Like, that's his passion. Like, everybody's passionate about different things, right? That's his. And when I visited him, I actually got to see the Lego room, and I was so it was like seeing the North Pole, man.
My son has my son's room has got a little Lego building area. So like he's got different storage containers and then the shelves for the Lego, and now he's got like display cases and stuff like that. He loves it. He's
Oh, how old is your son? If I may ask,
he's 8.
you might not want to. He what?
He's 8. Well, he'll be 9 in a
Eight.
month. Yeah, 9 in a month.
He's a little bit older than my granddaughter. My granddaughter's 6.
Oh, right on. Yeah. He wasn't. When he was 6, he just started hearing things like that. He had no interest though. He wanted to smash, break things.
Oh.
Yeah.
But he's a little bit more focused now.
Now he's way more focused. You know, he still likes the cannonball stuff here and there, but like since we got him to the therapist and got him analyzed, like it sounds kind of callous to say it that way, but diagnosed. He's been performing at a much higher level academically, and his focus it keeps him from getting in trouble. So then he's able to like kind of stay in it for longer, and then that helps him, get the grades. So it's been really good.
Yep, focus is when you got a kid that isn't able to focus, it's a challenge.
Oh, and for the teachers too, like they have to teach 29, 30 other kids, and so when Quinn's disruptive and throwing shit at another kid from across the room, the whole class stops. Boom, he's gone, right? Like, so he was getting that label, and we needed to do something about it, or else he was going to be fucked. So, doing something about it has helped.
That's good.
As opposed to not doing anything about it. So I'm definitely pro medicine, and I was afraid. Like before we went through this, one of the big conversations was, will this change him as an individual? Will it change his personality? Will it take away from the things that we love about our son? And that was a real worry. But like the consequences of not doing anything kind of manifest in some really troubling ways later on in life, as far as potential for criminal activity or impulsive behavior and control issues. So we decided to go through the therapy, and his personality hasn't changed. He's still loving, empathetic. He still loves to play video games and build things and spend time with his family and stuff like that. His appetite is expanded. He's happier in general because people are more willing to spend time with him, like the children at school and stuff. He now has a best friend that spends time with him outside of school.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, she just lives up the street, and so like he kind of like protects her at school, and she kind of like like has like this big brother kind of vibe. So it's really sweet to watch when they walk together and they play together and stuff like that. So I just hope it doesn't lead to like a dominatrix fetish for him later on in life, like being
whoa hey man,
I'm just teasing.
You're getting way ahead of yourself.
No, I'm teasing.
He's 8.
Not even worried about that. I don't really care too much.
I
Ole. Ole. All right, take this moment to thank our sponsors for this evening. Dylan's and Cottage Springs Beverage Company. Thank you very much. It's your fault. I blame you.
Is that your sponsor?
No, but thanks to them, this is the energy that everybody got. So, not yet. Not a sponsor.
I can't believe you didn't show it, because you're always out there looking for the brand deal.
Yeah,
always.
right.
Look what dish detergent I use. Look what energy drink I drink.
Milk. It does the body good. Get your milk from your Ontario dairy farmer. Thank your Ontario dairy farmer for your milk. Does a body good.
Hey, did you see the thing where the U.S. is asking Europe for eggs?
Denmark.
Yeah. So first of all, it's funny because he was an asshole to Denmark, and then he's like, "Hey, I need something." But here's the thing. Here's my question.
Get the eggs too.
But can can North America get eggs from Europe because it's so, or anywhere else outside of North America? Because North America is the only place that washes the eggs and refrigerates the eggs. Every other place, like I remember the first time I was in Europe, we went to go grocery shopping, and I'm like, "Where's the eggs?" And they're like on a regular shelf. Same thing in South America, same thing in Asia. Like nobody else washes their eggs and refrigerates them, but the United States say that you have to. Like they have regulations. So if they're asking, like Denmark's not going to wash eggs just for them. They're not
No.
going to change their processes, right?
Well, the U.S. would have to put up some kind of facility over there and treat them. It's hilarious. That's too funny.
Well, here's the thing. If there's illegal eggs going on, because yeah, I did see the thing about illegal eggs going on. From Canada to the US, we have the same, from what I understand. Don't quote me on it because I'm not into agriculture, but I understand it's kind of the same. But if anybody else was trying to get like eggs from other continents, like either down from South America or over from Europe, like if North Americans aren't used to eggs that haven't been washed and are refrigerated, like how do you even get them in, and does it affect you? Anyways.
That's too funny.
Oh, yeah, know what? You're right. They fired all their food inspectors, so there's not going to be anybody to say, hey, the eggs from Europe are different than the eggs from North America. You're right. Great point.
And I saw like somebody commented here, but I also saw before that Americans were coming up and buying up all our eggs, right? Like buying up all the eggs because it's like, oh, it's so cheap up here, $9 for 30 eggs. I think that's what I paid is $9 for 30 eggs, which I thought was kind of expensive, to be fair. But whatever. Anyways, my eggs are good. But they're coming up, buying all our eggs and bringing them back down. Yeah, the protests in Hungary, Romania, across the sea. Oh, yeah, that was
Serbia.
huge.
Did you see the Serbia one?
Yes. And I saw people were saying that it was like a pro right wing thing, pro like freedom thing, where they were talking about interference from the Secret Service in Romania. I don't, and then everybody else was like anti authoritarianism. Was that what it was?
Yeah. The ones I saw were like anti-authoritarianism, and yeah, 1 million in Serbia. Holy, and that was MS Lotus Lady. That was against authoritarianism, I believe, right? I think it was, and even when you, where else am I thinking of? There was other ones that were. I know Germany.
Turkey, I think, was one. Was it Turkey or just Hungary? I know there was like 5 separate countries that participated in a massive protest. But then it was like there was another big protest in Romania that was pro-Russia. And it was pretty big too.
I didn't know about that one. I will look.
There was flags. I don't know if it was AI or not, though.
That's the thing. There's so much bullshit. You got to triple check everything.
That's exactly what I'm doing right now.
Like, seriously.
Train crash. Violent protests erupt in Europe after pro-Russia candidate. Yeah.
Hungary against the leader. That's Viktor Orban.
That's Hungary.
Yeah. Hungary against their leader. I was listening to Lori in the chat.
Oh, they've had it with Orban? Mm-hmm. If they had it with Orban, I guess Erdogan will be next. Because it tends to like move in waves. Pro-Navalny sweep Russia. Holy. God damn it, now she got me saying that.
So we have a question in the chat of, I wonder how Carney's going to deal with Trump. I think that he's going to diversify. Instead of putting all our eggs in an American basket, I think he's looking at a European basket to put our eggs in right now. I might be wrong about that. But even if you look at, there's an interview with George Stephanopoulos. I can't pronounce his like the MTV guy or the Let's Music guy.
Strombo? Strombo?
Yeah, Strombolopoulos. That's it.
Yeah,
George Strombolopoulos. There was an interview with him from like 2011 or something, a long time ago when he was saying that Canada shouldn't be relying that much on the U.S. Yeah, from 14 years ago. So you see, Scott Moe did this whole thing of like, why is he going to Europe? We're not having a trade war with Europe. Why isn't he going to talk to Trump? What do you want? Like, these guys just want him to kiss the ring. And I disagree. I think that if you say, okay, well, because how's Trump hurting us? We don't pay the 25%, right? He's hurting us by limiting how many people are going to buy from us. Okay, go find somebody else to buy from us.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yes, exactly that.
yeah.
And by and I think Mr. Global did a not a clapback but a correction to Billy about the value of our oil and why it's called discounted oil. I'm not sure if you saw that. But it wasn't impolite. It was
Yeah, they
okay.
don't want to give up the U.S. connection. I also think that the U.S. has been priming the prairies um, for years of this American
Yeah.
duality. There's been a lot of marketing that has been poured into that. Um, yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, and I think they're I think they pulled the
They're gonna.
trigger on their plan.
Yes, somebody saw. They said Carney's trip to Europe was a vacation. Listen, this guy is gonna about to have so much shit thrown on him. Um, it's gonna get so loud with all of the attacks and the negativity. It's gonna be gross. And I hope that people can hear through it to be able to pay attention in order enough to care enough to go to the voting booths, because I think all that negativity, I really do think it just fucking turned everybody off. I really do.
I
Anyways,
agree. I This pro-American stuff and this anti-Canadian movement, this anti-liberalism or anti-progressive mentality that's kind of manifested in an us versus them, has all come from fear propaganda and this fire hose of falsehoods that's coming from both Russia, the United States, and now we know India and Iran both participated, and then Israel as well has their own propaganda engine that's meant to whitewash stuff and make it seem less egregious. Um, and it's whittled away at some of the people here who were critical thinkers, and they've become overly or hyper vigilant on trying to find a bad guy within our system, find the corruption, expose the liberal, expose the left, and I feel like it's an us versus them mentality that a lot of people are bringing to the table.
well, I think that's happening on both sides.
Oh, for sure. And that's what I was going to say too, is like some discourse can't even happen because people are too worried about being respected. And you have somebody who says, I won't talk to you because you don't respect this about me. And they're like, that's the thing that I want to talk about, is that thing about you. And because, or that thing that you claim, or whatever it is. And they can't start that conversation because both parties have put this roadblock in the way that doesn't allow them to move forward. One sees it as an attack on conventional ideas and values, and the other one sees an attack against human rights. And they won't say, hey, I'm human, and then the other person, they won't try, and they just said screw it, and they're just going to fight. And that's the first conversation we had, is, do we give those people a voice? Do we spend time trying to amplify that kind of division?
Sorry, I had to check on my dog. No, I get it, because on one hand, you don't want to be giving a microphone to harmful and dangerous ideas. However, the the conversations that we have with, and I'm not talking about online, I'm talking about with people like in your real life. I think that, first of all, I think in-person conversations, I was going to say are easier, but I don't believe that they're easier for everybody. I think that they're more effective, though. Um, I think that they're more effective in being able to have a productive conversation with somebody that you disagree with, in having them maybe reconsider what they're supporting when they support harmful ideologies. And one of my greatest successes on TikTok is when somebody messages me to say that a way that I communicated or something about my video made it easier for them to have a conversation in real life.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely my biggest win.
Yeah. And I like, I really wanted to attach a sense of normality or a sense of humanity to individuals who were normally persecuted by others who felt either that they had a superiority to them or had a knowledge, that was somehow evading someone, and the judgment that came with it. I just wanted to try and have people see through that moment and be like, okay, maybe I'm a little bit over the top with this and I can just leave other people alone. But I think that's wishful thinking.
I think that there's a lot of wishful thinking nowadays because, like, and I've said this before, and it's stronger now. 10 years ago, 5 years ago, when somebody said, maybe not 5 years ago, it would have to be longer because it's before COVID. Before COVID, if somebody said to you, hey, what is your world going to look like? What is your life going to look like 5 years from now? What does your life look like 10 years from now? Everybody confidently had a picture, and nobody knows what next year is going to be like. Nobody knows what the end of this year is going to be look like. And there's so much uncertainty, and the uncertainty causes anxiety. People are creatures of habit, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Creatures of habit. That's exactly part of the problem, like legacy voting, just accepting things on face value. They develop a trust for the same things their parents had a trust for.
Well,
Not everybody.
that also goes to education. If you aren't educated, and if you aren't curious about looking outside of all of the messages that have been streamlined to you, do you know what I mean? If you're, what's that guy, the Jim Carrey guy,
Yeah.
that, in the movie where he's not real, or he's real, but and he thinks
Truman
his
Show?
life is real.
The Truman Show?
Yeah, the Truman Show.
One of my favorite
I
movies
think there's
of
a
all
lot of
time.
people who are living a Truman-like experience where
Yeah.
they are they're only reading one page of this book, and people are telling them there's nothing else in that book, man. Only this one page. This is the way that it is, and there's no other pages in this book. And there's a lot of people who believe that there is only one thought, and that anything outside of that thought is just, evil. And that's another reason why I think education is important, because people like that are not just taken advantage of, but yeah, kind of they are in a sheep way.
Oh my God. I think it's also a little bit deeper. Like it's, have you ever heard of people pleasing? Well, I'm sure you've heard of people pleasing. I didn't mean to say it like that.
I'm a woman, Butters. You think I haven't heard of people pleasing?
But I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's
I
okay.
heard it coming out, and I was like, that's a dumb way to phrase this.
And she's gonna slap me for it.
I'm glad my wife wasn't here for that. But one of the aspects, I'm not saying this for your sake here, but I'm framing it. But one of the aspects of people pleasing is an avoidance of conflict, right? So a person who is a clinical people pleaser will remove themselves from the potential of conflict before it happens, and will completely walk away and turn their back on it, even if there's something in that moment that they cared about. And that's kind of like a conflict within that people pleasing can kind of manifest it in politics and policy and the awareness type thing. Like, you don't want to know, so you just accept and you move on. And you don't dig deeper. They don't read the policies. They don't read the platforms. They don't read the impact that certain decisions cause. And they just keep moving forward saying, my way is better. Just look at the world around you and what you've done to it, or that kind of rhetoric happens.
Yeah, exactly.
It's quite frustrating for someone. Mr. Sad. Is that what you're calling yourself? Sorry.
Who's Mr. Sad?
I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's the angry conservative or the real conservative. The
Who's
angry liberal, real conservative. That person.
Oh, I only know them in comments.
Oh, okay. That's fun. Fun times had by all. But yeah,
Okay, so can I ask you another question?
you can ask me whatever you want.
Do you think Carney's cabinet stays this small if he wins the next election?
No chance.
Okay.
No chance at all. I think Carney's intentions were to kind of just hold the course, kind of like an austerity measure for the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Whittle it down, figure it out, run for cap, and then open it again. I also have a sneaky suspicion he's going to, because there's a rumor going around he's asking like conservatives to participate. So I don't know if he's reserving a couple of spots for conservatives, a couple of spots for NDP. I'm hopeful though that he doesn't necessarily capitulate to those kinds of right-wing stuff.
Yeah. I would love to see him pick people from conservatives and NDP, especially NDP,
Exactly.
for his cabinet, because I think that when you have different points of view, because like, here's the thing, I would love it if everybody thought the same as me, all
Right.
40 million of us, agreed with me, and that'd be fantastic, and what an easy way to go, but that's not the way it goes, man. I recognize that there's a lot of people in this country who don't agree with me, who would agree with conservative politicians. So I think it's important to have their perspective, even if you're not going to write the laws that they want to.
Yeah.
I think it's important in a country that has those people there to understand their perspective at least.
And I think those kinds of actions kind of like will take the wind out of the sails of the divisive rhetoric that the leader of the opposition has been, putting forward for the last 3 years, regardless of it's him, even Jagmeet with Justin for a while too. Like, it doesn't really matter at this point anymore because that's over. But, offering positions to people who are not obstructionists primarily and who definitely want to represent their constituencies. And I think that kind of opens the door to the reform we're looking for as far as electoral reform is concerned, building new traditions, opening new doors.
I agree.
I wish evidence mattered more to people.
And you know what? I don't like that he didn't congratulate him. Even Singh, I have some criticisms of how Singh has addressed Carney. But even through that, he still put out a really super respectful post of, congratulations. And I remember when Pierre won, the leader of the opposition, I remember Trudeau congratulated that guy too. And he can't, it would be so bad for his base if he did. And that's why he's not doing it. And that's because I don't know what Pierre the person would do. I have no idea, but I can call this guy's plays because they're Trump's plays too, same playbook.
Yeah,
but
playbook
you know what I
thing.
mean?
And I wish I was the reporter at that moment in time when Pierre asked him what playbook, because I would have tore him a strip up and down, right? I would have given him examples from like.
So here's the thing, so when I said I have criticisms of how Jagmeet Singh is addressing Carney and some of his criticisms of him, because they're not criticisms, some of them are attacks, right? I think that's the politician part of Jagmeet, and I think the person part of him is the one that sent and I could be wrong, but it could be why you're still congratulating somebody you're slamming. You know what I mean? Instead of being a Pierre and just slamming and not. I think you can still be in competition with somebody and still be respectful of them enough to give them the congratulations they deserve.
That's the element of Jagmeet
like in this
that
case.
I really respected over time was that he was a competitor, and a lot of his ethics were built around martial arts and training within jiu-jitsu and other martial arts, which really, appeals to me because that's what I did for 3 decades. And I'm very much an enthusiast. So like I could see the respect and how that helped form his principles. And so like that was something that led me to paying more attention to Mr. Singh and what he was trying to do. And nobody can deny his achievements in Parliament and what he's been able to accomplish despite being the position that he's in.
Yeah.
And I think that now, after all that collaboration and that cooperation, that work that they put in together, he has to tear that Band-Aid off and either remove himself completely from looking like somebody who's going to prop them up instead of competing with them and speaking truth to power, or he needs to join and form an actual pre-election coalition. And I think he, right?
I would love to see that. I absolutely, and I
I've been
know
saying
so
it
many
for
other
years.
people. And I think there's a lot of people who wouldn't. I do recognize that there's a lot of people who wouldn't. I am not one of those people. I would love to see it, but I do recognize how many people would absolutely hate that.
Exactly. And
from
I don't
Liberals and
understand why
NDPs.
you would be an individual would be so opposed to forming a temporary coalition or even a permanent. If it works, it works. And why would you want to go back, right? Like you still want to have other parties, but then from that, other parties will splinter or develop. But like you would have something that could combat this Conservative Party for the moment. So whatever happens after that, so be it. I just think it's,
Yeah, I agree. Because I think I don't want Pierre to win. I really don't. I don't care what he says about being Canada, blah blah blah. That guy's Team Trump. I don't care. He is. Like, actions speak louder than words. Your campaign manager, your strategist person or whatever,
I
he wears a
concur.
bloody hat. Like, come on. And has never come out to say, and here's the thing, it isn't just like she threw on a hat one time and somebody took a picture and everybody's taking advantage of it. That's not what's happening. She and Pierre have not come out to say, you know what, I wore that hat a long time ago. Today I wouldn't wear the hat. You know what I mean? Has not denounced the hat wearing. Knows that this thing is out there and doesn't talk about
absolutely.
it.
And I think I'd have more respect for a lot of these people if they would be able to admit that perhaps they were overzealous, in accepting this
Yep.
individual. Because nothing he has done is to the benefit of anyone. Like not even 50% of the people in his own country. I don't see a good ending to this. I know that
No, I know.
I know Canada's already deviating from previous trade agreements. Like the F-35 program has been halted in multiple countries already, and they're moving towards the Griffin from Sweden. It's a Saab plane, and it's not quite as high tech as the F-35, and it's not as integrated with NATO, but it's still compatible. I read up very little bit about it today,
A look.
and it cost 60 million per plane less
Wow. 60 million
per plane.
per plane.
Yeah, so like the minimum cost for an F-35 is 120 million.
Wow. Holy.
Yeah,
Well,
that's per plane, and I don't think that's with munitions either. Like,
the thing with the F-35 is we've already invested tons of money into R&D, fitting our installations, infrastructure, training. We have technicians already getting trained on those platforms. I don't see us pulling out of the F-35 deal. I think this is just another.
I don't see it as being a good idea personally. I think I prefer the F-35. I think we can navigate this Donald Trump situation.
What I mean is, I think this is a political move by Carney to pressure the Americans again. Like, I think there's a lot of
Carney doesn't
shenanigans going on right now.
Like Carney wouldn't do that yet. Just a second. These conversations are conversations that are happening within NATO. It's not.
No,
It's
no.
not
What I mean is
party that's driving.
Canada's intent to start looking at other
It's
platforms.
because NATO is starting to look at other platforms because NATO has a Buy American policy, which means that we're heavily integrated with the American
I
platform.
get that, but
US
NATO is
software.
like the
So
U.S. is a
NATO,
part of NATO.
but NATO itself has
Other
said that they're
other
contemplating buying into the
NATO
Griffin
countries, though?
program.
Do you mean countries in NATO which are not the U.S.?
So what happens is yeah, exactly. So
Okay, so these countries in NATO which are not the U.S. who are looking to other platforms,
yeah.
Canada right now, we already have a lot invested.
No, I
in
understand that.
platforms. I understand
I
other
understand.
countries can do whatever they want,
But it's also understand that we're talking about a national security threat, right? That's what we're talking about as well. We're not talking about an identity with, that we want to share with the Americans. We are not Americans. We are Canadians, and we want to keep our sovereignty. And if that means that we have
in
to
order to say that, you need to believe that Donald Trump is actually trying to annex Canada, which is not the fact. And I think people.
but he's going to try to annex part of Canada. That's all part of the art of the deal. Remember, like when you talk about the art of the deal, you have to talk about Donald Trump stating that he would ask for more than he would want, so that he could work backwards and get.
Okay, but if, for example, it's not about annexing. If Alberta wants to leave Canada, does a referendum.
Alberta doesn't get to leave Canada just on their own. You understand that there's
Provinces have a right to demand.
a vote.
Provinces have a right to demand referendums.
Sure,
This is a
but the
democracy.
referendum is with the whole country, not just Alberta.
No. When Quebec had a referendum to leave the country, not all of Canada voted, just Quebec citizens.
Yeah, and what was going to happen if they tried to leave? Do you know? Do you remember?
There
Based on
were
that
there
referendum,
were
do you
no
remember
that
what
was
Jean
under,
Chrétien was going to do?
There was 2 other referendums prior to that.
Do you remember what Jean Chrétien said?
I remember what Jean Chrétien said he was going to do, but you have to understand there were 2 other referendums before that, and those 2 other referendums did not have those clauses in them. So the third referendum had that clause in it, what Jean Chrétien said he was going to do. So these clauses, if Alberta wants to leave Canada, they have a right as a province to decide whether or not they want to do that. And afterwards,
How does that process work?
How does that process work of going to trying to separate from Canada?
Yeah, go ahead. Start from the beginning. How does it work?
Make your intent clear, and then you have a referendum. You need 51% of the population.
51% of the population to succeed from Canada. Is that the only basis for separation?
After that, so there's more complex issues that come with, right? The money supply, all the integrated, like there needs to be talk with the government, but to get the ball rolling, a province does a referendum, and then if they can show the intent of half the population wanting not to be in Canada anymore, the government in itself speaks for the people. So if the people of one said province wish to leave, it should honor their will, because this is a democracy.
What about the will of the other 49%? So again, like there are other kinds of voting. So there's consensus voting. It's not just a democratic majority that will lead to a separation, right? You still need, and I think Quebec did say 51% at that time, but they would never.
Quebec, yeah, there was 49% no yeses and 51% yeses in Quebec.
They still wouldn't have been able to separate at that time, right?
Yeah,
But
the one thing that a lot of people are forgetting, though,
yeah,
the one thing that a lot of people are forgetting, yes, Quebec had a referendum.
Yep.
Yes, they kind of cheated it and they still lost. But even if they won, they got to leave with Montreal and that was it.
Yeah,
Because
that
it was the
other
first
thing.
treaty of Quebec. So Alberta wants to leave. Okay, the first treaty of Alberta starts at Lethbridge, moves over to Saskatchewan border, runs down to the US border, back over and up. That's it. That's all they get.
Yeah.
85% of Alberta is crown land, which means it can't be taken from Canada.
or indigenous.
And these people that don't want to look at that shit and understand that that's how that works, they are literally going to take their 2.5 million people, if they all want to leave, and move to Lethbridge, and that's going to be their whole state.
Can
And
I add?
I'm sorry to tell you, that literally has very little to do with the Alberta economy. It's mainly all their cattle farming.
Also add that this gentleman is correct. There is treaties with natives and the indigenous, and this is the indigenous land. So they have a contract with the crown. They have no obligation to honor any referendum unless there is a new
Exactly.
treaty. The second thing I
And
want to
if you
mention too is, and this is something that all these people, I'm an Albertian, by the way, and I love Alberta, so don't think that I'm against Alberta. But the second thing they don't understand is there has been quiet information or polls showing Edmonton and big cities like Edmonton and Calgary will not agree, which means
exactly, and it's the
Edmonton
majority
has
of
the
their
right.
population.
Exactly. Edmonton could say, okay, you want to leave Edmonton and Calgary, remaining in Canada. They have that right to secede from Alberta. And the same as up north, that is natives. They can secede, including the oil fields.
Is
So
it
really,
inconceivable
I
to
get
think
that.
that conservatives would want to stay as well? So it's not just all conservatives right off the bat.
Exactly.
If you do set a referendum, it's not going to be all the conservatives, because who the hell wants to pay for healthcare in the States? The way they're paying.
Well,
the way
it's
they're
not
doing
just
it.
paying for healthcare. It's
I know, it's being reductive.
when you look at it, the American government in tax dollars that the American people pay 2 times more on healthcare than the Canadian government pays per person in Canada. Per person in the US to per person in Canada. And they have nothing to show for it.
I think
Then on top of that, you're going to spend about $18,000 a year out of pocket for insurance. And then out of that,
at source.
you're going to spend another like $5,000 per visit to the hospital.
Yeah, depending on what you need, and like,
Yeah, and that's only if you get approved.
and I think instead of like trying to prove why the United States is a less desirable place to live than Alberta, I think we should be doing more to make Alberta more inviting. I was
Yeah.
looking some ideas around the other day, and I was like, why wouldn't they build a city? Build a city with top of the line, state of the art, modeled after Singapore. And it takes a long time to build a city. It's not like you put all the money up front.
Alberta is
Technically,
interesting
we're
for
trying
people
with the
because of
remake
jobs,
of Banff.
not
No, not a remake. I mean, completely new city.
But because of the wildfires a few years back, right? That whole area is getting redeveloped.
Yeah.
And the thought process behind redeveloping it is making it another major city / attraction area
I would
to
add another
bring
one
in
to
more
that.
people.
So I think
major cities is not what fuels Alberta's economy. Major cities is not what's fueling Alberta's
population and
economy.
representation.
So,
Meg.
If
Like,
you're
so-
not looking at resource development in Canada,
Who's not looking at resource development in Canada?
But here's the thing.
Who's
You
not
say
doing
it
that, though?
doesn't
the
grow,
Liberals
but it
haven't
actually
been
does.
looking
Wait,
for
because
resource
where are
development
people-
for the last 10 years. What are you talking about?
Just explain
Where
your
are
point.
people traveling?
Explain
Right?
your point.
So
Explain how energy
you
sector
want people
is
to
not-
travel.
Explain, Meg, how
Yeah,
energy.
so what you're saying is like we need to make Alberta
No, you made a statement. An energy sector is the
and it
driver,
has to do with
and
the
it's
fact
been
that
ignored.
you
So
create, like I
qualify
said,
that statement.
if you do create new cities in Alberta is successful because they have jobs. People go there to work. So these new cities need those resources.
One of the complaints that Alberta has
But-
is that they don't have representation in Parliament. This is one of the ongoing issues. And to get representation in Parliament, you need population.
You need population.
Alberta's population is growing, but they're going to eventually run into the same situation that Ontario did with the cities and Toronto and similar
Yeah.
cities that are
And
urban
Ottawa now.
and they become problematic for growth because of the way they were built. My suggestion isn't against Alberta; it's in support of what they were saying. They need, they've been asking. Alberta's been asking for more representation. By the time the vote gets out to Alberta, it's already counted and done type thing, right? Like it, and if you just listen
At times.
to what Albertans are, no, I know what you're saying, but I'm being reductive again to just.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
No, I know what you're saying.
So, like, I think what I hear a lot from Alberta is that you don't necessarily have a lot of representation in seats in Parliament, right? And so to do that, you need more population. How do you get more population? You build more cities.
Yeah.
And I think when you look north, they also have 3 new military installations that are being built here. So if we could coordinate the same thing and have new high technology cities emerging in critical places that connect those military bases with northern cities and with the southern city, I think we're way ahead.
And I
Yes.
totally agree with that statement. And
My other point
the problem
is-
being
my other
that
point
the government
for-
right now, the government that's in power right now, unless it is
Okay. So my
replaced,
other point was
won't
my
push
other
to
point.
develop those ideas.
Okay, I'll hear you in just a second, okay, bro. But like my other point is the two-part solution. My two-part solution is to increase the amount of representatives that are per province by cutting the provinces in half and then doubling the amount of premiers that we have, so that they're not consolidating power within one hegemony, and we can move away from kind of like a kind of like a controlled.
That would require us to reopen the Constitution, I think.
And so
Well,
by doing that,
my one issue with that,
but if sorry, wait,
my one issue with that
wait,
is
wait,
is
wait.
population, though, right?
Just one
Like
second,
you
dude.
by
To finish
doing
my
that,
point-
no, but I'm just saying by doing
finish
that,
the point,
you're
to finish
almost-
my point, and you can go right to finish my point.
Okay.
You can go on it. Is that the action for the thank you, baby. The action would be to give opportunity for representation with the First Nations people in our parliamentary system, so that we would have the provinces, and one half would be deliberately on treaty land, so that the people residing within that treaty land have an equal representation, and then can move that into Parliament, and we can hear more from First Nations people.
that I agree with.
Yeah,
If we're gonna add
I
politicians,
understand.
that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
What I don't like is
How
like
do-
what you just saw with Northern Ontario, where that one guy, what's his name, from the NDP, and his sector just like doubled, and he picked up like 4 other reservations, and he's like, I don't even have the time to go to these places, as is,
But nobody can
and that's
represent.
not representing them.
Yeah,
You know what I
nobody
mean? Like,
Nobody
Okay, but-
represents
but-
reserves like people who live there, right?
These changes you're talking about,
yeah,
though,
exactly.
are not soft changes to the political system. You need to reopen the Constitution, and we've tried that.
Yeah, but
soft
people are
process.
always asking for that. People are talking
I know,
about
but
wanting
we've
change.
tried-
They want to
we've
change
tried-
the whole system. That's part of the argument.
I get that, but the reason people are scared about it is whomever reopens the Constitution, how are we to hold accountable the government that's going to redraw the Constitution? You know, like it's a complicated thing. If we look like
Because it's not a unilateral decision, right?
Yeah,
Because
but-
they
but
don't
the
get
government-
which tank do you need this by, babe? So it's not a unilateral decision, right? Like it's a joint decision that has to involve everybody in Parliament, right? Like, so you just put it
when they
forward to
redraw a
Parliament.
Constitution.
you're essentially just changing the jurisdictions and then adding to them, so you'll have a smaller voter base in each system.
No,
So
I
instead
get
of
that,
it
but I'm
being
not
like
sure that-
130,000 people, you might only have 70,000 people. Now
And I
I've
get
doubled
that.
the number of
It's not that I
electorates.
disagree with the point. I'm just like, reopening the Constitution is a very complicated thing in Canada, and oftentimes it won't pass because people don't.
It's just a discussion, dude. I can't make it happen either. Like, I can't wave a wand and make this happen.
No. I know,
It's
but
my idea. It's my concept of a solution based around listening to the people that I've had debates with and what their major problems are.
and I get that. I just find it idealistic because it's probably not a solution because it can't happen.
But it's based around what the people who are obstructing progress are doing. What do you think, King? Like, what kind of a solution? What kind of transformative concepts need to be presented and debated within Parliament to appease this movement of people that want structured change amongst our legislators.
I don't have the answer to that. What I can say is I'm going back to this issue of Alberta leaving. The economical damage from even talking about it or taking it seriously is unbelievable. Alberta is a landlocked province. Even if we want to move the oil to British Columbia through the pipeline, that pipeline was built by Canada. We could easily charge Alberta money for just doing that. And
It wouldn't be
the
any
real
different to
estate
Quebec.
prices will go down so badly, because the other 40% of Albertans want to leave. They're not going to stay. So you're going to talk about 30% to 40% of Albertans illegally selling their houses to leave, particularly the older
Well,
guys that have
it's
pensions.
not even just that. It's when you look at Quebec, when Quebec went to leave, Labatt's, Molson, every major company in Quebec had booked up every major transit line from like big rigs all the way down. Like they rented out every truck you could get and made sure everything was empty, because if that vote said yes, they were leaving.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which means you literally
Exactly.
had zero business.
Yeah.
Zero.
And this
'Cause
is
nobody
understood-
wants it.
This is understood by governments when they do these actions, right? That they're going to have to rebuild from within. I don't think the Quebec government at the time was negating those facts.
Well, they didn't listen to anybody, and they
No.
cheated in their
no, they were
ballot.
listening
For
to
a referendum,
Quebecers.
to clarify, just to clarify a referendum's rules, in the 1998 reference to the secession of Quebec, a landmark ruling by the Supreme Court of Canada, the court stated that the province cannot unilaterally secede. Instead, if a clear majority of the province's voters were to support separation in response to a clear question, it would obligate negotiations between the federal government, the province, and possibly other provinces. So it's not just about the vote.
No. There needs to be sit downs. Once a vote is issued and a referendum has been, like the referendum's called, the vote's done, and if it says yes, now you need to sit down with the leaders of the country and negotiate everything, right? Because these are most provinces are landlocked. Like you have to go through that province to get to the next one.
Well, that was the whole point of the Bloc Québécois.
But what I mean though is like, so these resource-rich provinces right now are not getting the representation they want in Ottawa, and Ottawa is being hijacked by small groups within parties.
Wait. Sorry.
But they're not.
Wait. What is
You
the
do.
representation that you think that they want? that
Economic
they're not getting?
representation.
What representation do you think they want that they're not getting in government?
Economic representation.
Like how so?
How so?
Excuse
so
you?
How so?
Alberta, let's say with transfer payments, Alberta's the most
So you didn't clean any of your room?
Okay.
So let's
As
say
you want to
Alberta's
go with
the
that, no. As you want to go with
most
transfer payments, which I
You're
understand.
still not able to watch
But
TV.
then, should the federal government be allowed to then give $18 billion a year
Oh well, it'll
to the
still be
province
here.
of Alberta for the oil fields?
Well, that
Because if
There's
we
your
go
attitude.
by what money goes out, Alberta gets the most.
Then you
out of
better go and
every
clean up your
province.
room after dinner.
Get that
Okay,
green
so
eye,
how do you
you're-
think
you're-
And that's
you're-
not
Get
even
your-
considering the
Clothes
$50
ready for
billion
school tomorrow.
Beaver, can you?
LNG
Okay,
line
listen.
going through.
Listen, I don't want to have to police people and interruptions and stuff like that. If you're here to have good discourse, just have the discourse. But we
Yeah, so
get into
Green
this
Eyes
whole
Mike
process.
is hot.
Oh my goodness! I didn't even know that I requested.
All right.
I didn't even request.
What KRA was saying.
I can help you then.
So to come back, like KRA was saying there, and I can see, but that talk still has to happen between, like, if you have a very resource rich province and you have a mind, like, you don't have a lot of representation in Ottawa,
If you want to come back
Money
up, be nice.
that
Come
you're
on.
generating is substantial to the country. It sucks if you're not being represented for that, right? It sucks.
But again, $18 billion a year for the last 15 years. has gone to Alberta and the oil fields.
But also
when you cry that you lost $250 million in transfer payments, but got back $18 billion,
But that's
the
not what I'm
offset
saying,
is
Gary.
completely wrong.
That's
No,
not what
but
I'm
that's
saying,
the point,
Gary.
though, right? Like, you
No,
can't
it's not the
say,
point.
"Oh, we lost 250 million, but we got 18 billion,"
No,
and
but-
that's not fair.
The economic representation, regardless of the amount that's being transferred back into the province, isn't there.
But it is there. We
How
just
do you- wait,
like
how-
you're
how do you
literally
mean
saying
it's
it
not
doesn't
there?
matter.
How do you mean it's not there?
It's not there because right now the amount of seats that Alberta holds
Yeah.
in Parliament
Is represented by the people.
Yeah, exactly. It's
the amount
You,
of
proportional
you
to the
only
people.
have 2.5
So wait,
million
the
people
next
that
question
live
I
in
have,
Alberta.
Wait, KRA, hold on.
The-
The next question I have for you is, how do you think equalization sums are calculated? How do you think that total amount comes to be?
well, it probably goes per capita.
So you don't know.
No, it doesn't
Is that
go
what
by
you're
per
saying? You
capita.
don't know how equalization.
I don't know, but I'm not.
You don't know.
talking
Wait,
about-
dude. You'll have a chance. So you don't know how equalization payments work, but you're adamant that they work against Alberta.
No, not at all. That's not what I said.
But that's your argument so far. Like
My
just
argument was that the amount of resources that Alberta holds and is provincially bringing to market is not taken into consideration
But-
in Ottawa.
Okay,
Okay.
but
But
here's
if there
the-
was no provinces, it would still be Canada, right? So it's not just Alberta. Those are Canadian
Well, we can
resources
look at
that
other-
Alberta
other
managed. Wait,
resources.
man,
We can
you'll
look
get
at
your
other
opportunity.
resources,
You'll get your opportunity. I promise you. I won't interrupt you. But when you make a statement
Do-
like
do-
that, you say
do-
things like Alberta's oil, Alberta's resources, but they're not. They're Canadian resources. Those are national resources that are managed by the province.
No,
The
the
province
resources- And they're all on
benefits
Crown
greatly
land.
from that.
They belong. They don't belong.
and they're all on Crown land.
And they're all on Crown land, or they go
Companies
through
pulling out the
treaty
resources.
land.
Yeah, but like you
Yeah.
said that resource belongs to Canada.
It does.
The resource,
Yes, it
resource
does.
Itself, okay,
It
so
does.
when I'm a company and I lease land in Alberta, I get the drilling rights to it. The resource now belongs to me.
No,
because
you
I-
get the
I-
distribution
No, it doesn't.
rights. You still pay a tax on all of that.
but the
Exactly.
resource belongs
You
to
still pay.
those
You still
companies.
pay a tax on all that. So like you're still
and
paying-
you're still only able to generate
if
so
you wanted
much
to, if
per
you want,
year.
yeah, if you wanted to be reductive about it and look at it from a top-down perspective, you're getting paid by the government to extract the resources and sell them.
But
And-
you now own
Could,
that
could you
resource
name
and
another
know the
business
value
that
of
gets
it.
$18 billion from the federal government
Blitz.
to generate $20 billion in profit every year?
and it's like a record-breaking profit industry.
Yearly.
Year over year over year, they make
And that's them selling at $65 instead of $80.
I have a problem with that too, but the only reason we do that is because
Yeah,
we don't
but that's because they were locked in.
no, we don't distribute internationally. And now with that LNG
Yeah, because they were
pipeline-
locked in.
Yeah, well, we have
To-
the new pipeline to British Columbia, which is going to move LNG to
Yeah,
Asia.
that finishes later this year.
No, it's already finished up and running.
BC is finished. I think they're
It's already
scheduled for
functioning.
August or September
But this
to be
all comes back
fully
to the same thing, though.
out of Alberta.
that when we're talking about like Alberta's been lobbying the government to get more projects built within Alberta, and the government that's been
Which
saying,
projects?
let's say 8
Which
years.
projects? Which
What
projects
projects?
aren't getting built because of the government, the federal government?
Well, they're
PNX is yeah. Go ahead, dude. He went and looked. I think we got a phone call. Yeah, you're right. There is a difference
Like,
between the
for-
crude oil that we're selling down south and the liquid
Yeah.
gas that we're moving to Asia. It's a big difference.
Yes, but even the crude oil, like, and this is where a lot of people don't understand, because they'll keep saying Quebec doesn't want the pipeline, which
Yeah.
isn't actually true. They just don't want the pipeline where they want to build the pipeline, and that keeps coming up, and people just brush that aside, and they're like, "Well, you don't want it," but it again, if you want to run it where the majority of my population gets their water, we're not interested.
Yo,
If
can
you
you
want to run it where the majority of my population gets my food, we don't want it.
Yeah, okay.
But if you want to run it where we don't have any issues, we're all good, and you say, well, that's you not wanting it, like, that's just a bold-faced lie.
I think there's also a little bit of hyperbole in there somewhere when you talk about wanting it. It's not about not wanting it. Like, a lot of people want it, but they also want to ensure that the environment is protected around them.
Exactly.
You know, like when we were looking at the Athabascan oil sands, and when we had
Exactly.
the governmental organization come in and do an audit on their declarations of emissions, they found that they were underreporting by 600%, and
Yeah,
you know, then
and it totally ruined an entire native land.
and how
Like,
the tailing ponds aren't as effective as they're claiming either, and how the water and the pollutants in the water are saturating into the ground, which is being absorbed, and then it goes into the drinking water for the nearby cities, towns, or reserves.
Exactly. But that's why Quebec said they didn't want
more than just
they
oil
didn't
profits, right?
Que-
The crazy idea
Quebec
of
said they
caring about
didn't
nature.
want.
Right? Quebec said no. There's
Like-
a pipeline going through Quebec.
Yeah, well, they not where they want it,
Yeah.
because where they wanted to run it, both times runs right through where Montreal gets the majority of their water, and they were like, we don't want
What's
that.
that?
Because
Having the
like
Montreal's
that'd be
not
like
like that.
us like running it right through Toronto, right in the middle of Toronto, just like, yeah, here's your oil
We
pipeline.
would do that in Toronto.
Yeah,
Toronto
we don't
Toronto
want
would-
it.
It's
Toronto would
hard though,
Exactly.
because outside of the St.
Toronto
Lawrence
would.
River Channel.
Toronto would do that with no problem.
No,
There's
that's
outside
what we do it. He
outside
put it
Mitch?
right underneath the tunnel that he wants to build.
Yeah,
Toronto
right.
Collapse
would-
the
would give
401.
no
Hard in
fucks.
Quebec because
Right under the 401, brother. You know what I'm saying? Right through. Put it through Mississauga. Put it through Richmond Hill. Nobody cares. Okay, listen. So
What's
I
Mick
don't
saying
know
though?
what
Hold on, he had a response, and then
Oh, sorry.
then you can go, Blitz. What's up, Mick?
Oh, I was saying the idea that Quebec, like a pipeline going through Quebec, pretty much like it would follow the St. Lawrence River, which is where most of the population in Quebec is. If you want to run it through the mountains, which is like north of Montreal, north of Quebec City,
Exactly.
it would cost. It then becomes
It costs more, but it's a lot safer.
cost wise,
Just wait,
right?
just wait one question. Well, yeah,
Like
Okay.
it's not only
Yeah.
that. It's not only that. It's without
then elongate
consultation.
it to get to, let's say, Labrador instead of St. John.
Yeah, but it's also goes like and becomes without consultation, right? Like, and that's a big issue too, because once you say yes, they get to determine where it goes, type thing, where that becomes a massive roadblock. So it's easier just to say no up front. You're not willing to move on to something else.
Yeah, because I think negotiations with Quebec for pipelines will always be difficult. Like no matter
Metro system there though, they know how to run things underneath the ground.
that-
man. They got
that's
the best
because
metro system
Quebec-
ever.
no,
Quebec's
with pipelines
government-
have faults in them. You can't you don't like an oil pipeline. You don't
I know,
want
I'm
it to
just
be
playing.
underground. You want to be able to do maintenance
I'm
on
But-
it.
literally just playing.
But
they do
again,
have the best
Quebec's
metro system.
government literally tries to do the best to take care of their people.
Yeah, and that's
They
I
don't
think,
care
like,
about
every-
business.
Every peer,
Like they don't
every
care
premier
about the
does,
dollars,
right? Like every premier claims to work for this.
In a way.
You know, like very few do.
I think there's that Quebec's a very divided province. I think that there is a current in Quebec, like from the left, with his Montreal, that kind of controls media in Quebec. And
No,
most
if you
Quebecers,
actually
when you go around
look
the
at
province,
Quebec,
He lives in
they are literally like
He lives in Quebec.
social first.
I live in Quebec, man. So most Quebecers outside of
He's right.
Montreal
He's
are not like the Quebecers in Montreal.
Yeah,
Very
I
right.
lived
I was born in
Say my
Montreal.
name.
He's very
Quebec
right.
I lived in Quebec for 15 years, but it's
Yeah, so
close to
the
Ottawa.
My
decider-
sister, yeah, my sister's still there. One of my best friends there. I was born there. Like he's right. Montreal's way different than the rest of it. Like my family lived in Knowlton, Quebec, as
But I,
well.
also,
So my
I,
family
live,
in
I live
Montreal.
near Ottawa. It's pretty
Yeah,
different.
the provincial politicians are they side with the Montrealers
That's right.
most of the
A lot
time.
of the
And the media. And the media.
Quebecers are much different and outside of the
I
city.
think like that brings
even
us
even
together.
when you go into Longueuil or Laval and shit like
Yeah,
that.
there's a
outside,
lot
so
more
even them.
conservatives. Like the
Quebec
Quebec hate
conservative.
to align themselves with conservative
but not
the
that.
Conservative
But not.
Party, but they have conservative values.
But it's not the Conservative Party of Canada that they will align themselves with.
no,
No,
they
they
won't.
They will
No.
align themselves. If they go conservative, it'll be with not the
The Bloc.
what's the other one? The second one, ADC.
La CAQ.
Yeah, but there's a huge
is
difference.
Liberals
CAQ,
Party.
that's it.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
a huge
like-
difference. Even like not even that far away.
CAQ's not liberal.
No, the CAQ's
Il
a
Perot,
conservative.
even Il
CAQ
Perot
would
compared
be
to
like,
Montreal is so different. You know.
Yeah,
center left, center right. Sorry.
yeah, but that's who would get the votes, not the progressive.
Yeah. But right now,
Yeah, no.
like what we're having,
so
Like
what
the Conservative Party hasn't received one seat out of Quebec since Brian Mulroney, and that was in the late '80s when he was
One
first
seat.
Jeez,
elected.
Brian Mulroney, I haven't heard
Yeah,
that.
but
since I
but
was like
Harper,
4.
Harper did take a lot,
Congratulations, GST, and the Conservatives cry about tax on tax on
No,
tax.
but like you look at
Even Harper,
you look at what
even
That was the
Harper
prime
with
minister,
his
like, right
majority
before I knew
government
what
got a lot of
politics was.
seats.
wait, too much talking over. But you look at what
Sorry.
Pierre Poilievre said in the last little media run that he did in Quebec, and he said that the media, he disrespected the media and said they weren't speaking truth to power, and then he said that the mayors were inept and aren't doing their jobs, and that the
Oh, in Montreal, the Montreal mayor, Julie Laplante.
yeah, and but it didn't matter. That's not up to the Conservative government to say, according to Quebecois. It's for the Quebecers to come up with that and determine the course of action, not Pierre Poilievre.
Montreal
No,
is the greatest
but
city.
Pierre
Honestly,
Poilievre,
Montreal's the greatest
I
city
feel
in
like he's
Canada,
allowed
but
to
I
have
like to
his
visit.
opinion.
I don't
You've
like
only
living
been there to
there.
visit.
No, I said it's the greatest city in the world in Canada to visit, but like I don't like living there. Probably because I don't speak the language fully, and I end up having to sell stuff. Anyways, I came up for the Alberta thing real quick because y'all went too far off. But I wanted to say I wanted to talk what y'all were talking about for a second. If you don't mind, I bring it back because I came up for this reason. I'm in Alberta, right? And I hear people talking about representation a lot. You feel me? But there's 4 million people in this whole province. That's Toronto. You know what I'm saying? I don't understand why they think they would deserve more representation or should have more.
Well,
It's because of how much of the market they manage within that province. So like if we were to take away farmland and agriculture sector and dedicate it to building houses and cities, then we would have less farmland and less resources for the country, and therefore they feel as though that should have some kind of representation amongst legislators.
Okay.
They don't see it there.
That's what I came to ask you.
but then it's the same case in Ontario as well. When you look at like just the vast size, we are not anywhere close. You know what I mean? Like we're 20 hours to drive from border to border, east to west, and
Yeah,
18 hours
Yeah,
north to
I've
south.
done that shit.
That's
It's
what I
big.
mean.
Like
we populated and subsidized the developments of Ontario around the cities here, but we didn't offer the same kind of development subsidies for Alberta. And I think that's part of where the animosity came from. And they decentralized the government and moved it some to Alberta or west of that is kind of what they're feeling. For me, I just think, there's just too much power.
Population is like,
But
The
it's
population is so
the
much
difference
different,
though,
man.
right? Like when you looked at Ontario before like Alberta used to get equalization payments more than anybody. Before the oil fields, it was always equalization payments going out
before the
west.
boom, you're saying?
And nobody cried about it.
And it's not just
But
that. Go ahead.
then Ontario and Quebec and other provinces, we sort of moved away from manufacturing as our major income source and moved more to high tech,
In Ontario?
right?
Remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when GM got shut down in
So
Oshawa, like around that
we
time.
kind of went and flipped almost the way the US did. US went from being a manufacturing into being a technology driven, consumer driven. Ontario went the same way, so did a lot of Quebec. So we
lot of
lost a
plants
lot
shut
of what we used to do.
Yeah,
Now
and lost
Alberta
business too,
ends
right?
up with the oil fields, and now they're giving out and they're crying that like we're giving this money
Yeah,
for
but
no reason
that's
when
not how
it's
equalization
literally
payments
we've
work.
been keeping you forever and a day beforehand.
But also,
So
Happy made a
basically,
good point.
like
Isn't it just
like
Canada?
Upper and
You know what
Lower
I'm saying?
Canada at the time funded the expansion westward, right? Like
Yeah, and
it was
the
Yeah.
expansion of the oil field.
so like Ontario and Quebec funded the expansion westward, and they would push new immigrants into the west to go develop, right?
Yeah,
And
or eastward out of Vancouver.
yeah, and the idea behind that was like we need to but a lot of people didn't want to go there. They wanted to stay in Ontario and Quebec, where the manufacturing sector was.
Yeah.
And it made so the economic motor of Canada for the longest time was held within Montreal and Toronto, like that one line.
Right.
And then
Yep.
once the oil fields were up and running, the economic motor under Harper switched over to Alberta. There was more money being generated by Alberta than our old economic motor, which was our manufacturing sector, which was under attack. And I'm not gonna.
Oh, I
But
miss
our
those
tech
days,
sector
you know,
now.
bro.
I think Harbour.
Well, it
Harbour
wasn't
does
exactly
a lot of
under
good job,
attack.
right?
It just
Right, it was
when the
sold off.
U.S. switched, we had no choice,
We
right?
sold
So
off.
that was through the
Sorry, we
80s
sold what?
under Reagan.
sold off. Like
When
Canada
when
sold
Reagan
off.
pushed all of their
read the
I
manufacturing
can't hear
to
what he
China.
said. We sold off. What did he say? We
No,
sold off?
Can you
we sold
read
off
the
our
NAFTA to the
industrial
beats?
jobs. So like we used to do pulp and paper up and down the St. Lawrence River, and we sold a lot of those companies. To,
There's as much demand now for paper as there was
investment
before.
groups. What?
Yeah, no.
No. Before like computers were the biggest thing, we were
That's
already
the
selling.
thing.
pulp,
It's now the
paper, and
computers are
pulp.
the biggest thing, right? So at some point, it's
Yeah.
just
It does
it's
change over.
evolving, right? It's things evolve and change. Just like
But these,
people who sold whale oil were pissed off when kerosene showed up. I'm not saying it's the same.
I
but
get
that's
that,
kind of
but
the idea.
these jobs, like the salary you were making when you were working at a GM factory compared to the salary you're making now as an IT tech, they weren't
Yeah.
the same.
That
I
also
came down
Right?
that
in
also goes into
2008,
like
brother. I was
the
making
AI
money hand over
sort of
fist here. You know what I'm saying?
right? Like
Everybody's
about
making money
innovation,
over here.
adding technology to
Mhm.
society and stuff like that. So when we're talking about adding innovation, integrating it within society, and kind of evolving beyond, conventional thought, like we had when the internal combustion engine was developed and introduced to farm and agriculture sector, and hundreds of thousands of people lost their employment because now farmers were able to either till or harvest their fields with tractors and harvesters.
Yeah, you could do
Now
more
it's-
with less.
Yeah.
And
Things
now
always
we
change,
have
right?
I
AI.
get that, but when you have a population
Now we
at
have
your
AI being integrated into society, which will remove a lot
That's
of.
why I won't even do self checkout, bro. Until they give me a T4, I'm not doing self checkout. I'm going right to the person. I don't care. You got to take.
Well,
I'm
that
not
also
getting a
created a
T4.
lot
I'm
of
not
jobs
doing it.
developing self checkout. So there's a pro and a con to that. But my question is now is like, how can somebody from Alberta be anti UBI when Alberta is a sector that comes with boom and bust and is dependent on a lot of labor that will be converted into artificial intelligence.
Which is
Not
the
much money
same
like
with
we
the
used to in
East
Alberta,
Coast.
what,
Which is,
but
well,
a lot of the jobs in
Coast.
Alberta are still like
The money's not
right?
the same, brother. It's
Are
not
still
the
what,
same.
what I mean is like when you look, let's say bureaucracy. If you're like Desjardins has been using AI agents and laying off people because they can do the job.
Do you know that?
person
Okay,
is doing.
so just to clarify, like the AI integration into, say, agriculture isn't just with like harvesters and automated tractors and stuff like that. It's also with monitoring systems that would take multiple people to go in and monitor each livestock, each animal, right? That can
Yeah,
be
but
done now
I'm not seeing how
that
that
can be done now through AI. And so that's a major sector of Alberta's jobs that are going to be lost once that is adopted.
Yeah.
I don't see how that converts to like let's say the oil industry where you're taking oil out of the ground and you're still going to need people to do the
Because the oil industry also is starting to go AI as well. So you're still going to have manpower needed, but my manpower needed is not as much, and therefore lots of people are now out of jobs. And
I guess
again,
not even as much
the
as it
second
used to
the
be,
oil
like-
the oil crashes down, like if we drop to $65 a barrel worldwide, we're no longer going to be employed in the oil fields.
No, we're not going to pull
That's
out
how
the
that
resources.
happens.
To be honest,
Right?
to be honest,
And then when you look,
Yo,
the
Carrie, are you in
population,
Alberta?
when the oil fields aren't there, they drop. No, I used to go all the time.
Yeah,
I used
like
to
I
go
think
back and
back
forth
in-
between
in
farming
2012.
and the oil fields at times.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
And then I
good. So
just
you know
I
what you're
got
talking
fed
about.
up with the up and down, up and down.
The
Right,
night
so it's like-
Calgary. Sorry, there's a night in Calgary here.
No,
as
you know
well.
what you're talking about. That's why I was saying. That's why I was just asking.
Mhm.
What you're
And
talking
we
about, 'cause
saw,
I'm here
we
now.
saw it happen too when
And it's
Fort
just not
Mac
the
shut
same. You know
down
what I'm saying?
for a while, you know,
Yeah.
because the price of crude was not advantageous. Why would we pull it out of the ground, right?
Well, it's
My NCSO,
they're not going
and
to
I could
dig.
get a
They're not
job.
going to drill out for a loss.
Exactly.
I
yeah.
could get a job doing like I could get a job anytime, anytime I wanted, right? I got my NCSO. I could go up there and do safety. I'm talking. There's jobs anytime you want, big money. Go up to the, you know what I mean? Go up and do a stint, come back with a couple of racks, right? It's just not the same
Yep.
here anymore, unless you're like.
Oh, I used to do it early
it's just not the
2000s.
same.
I used to do it early 2000s, and I ran my schedule up there around the same time I was rodeoing.
67 is
So-
break even, but we're selling it at 65.
Yeah, that's dope. It's just not the same as it used to be, and so I think people in Alberta are hurting, and so they're pissed off. That's really what it
Selling
is.
at 65, like
Yeah,
last
but
week.
when you look at the oil fields population, it is a complete mix of people from all over the country.
Oh, yeah, it's not just.
It's
so,
never
yeah,
just
Like
Albertans,
like
it's
when
all
I
people
was
from
up
all over the
there, when
place.
I was up there,
100%.
we had everybody from the East Coast, especially when fishing was going down.
yeah,
Right,
you're
because
You're
fishing-
absolutely right.
Fishing's high, they're all gone. Fishing's low, they're all back.
Yeah.
Well, it's like Edmonton.
And-
where I
and
live.
that's-
Edmonton, I live is
But
it's a
it kind
prison,
of works.
right? It's all
It kind of
people
works
from
in
places,
unison,
right?
though, because like when the fishing stops, winter starts, and then you have the ice roads build up out west, and then you know there's a bigger boom. Like a lot of Maritimers would use the winter because they're not fishing.
Yeah, my family's from the Maritimes. That's why they made the federal EI system. I think it's federal, where they
To
where
be
they
honest, like
where they
Sorry.
reduce the hours needed for seasonal workers to have benefits at the same price.
when you're in the field up
Yeah.
there, you know, you see, you're right. You meet people from all over the places. It's not nobody. It's not even
Exactly.
everybody's from Alberta. We're all from all over the place. I think.
But then
it's
you
like
go to city.
Edmonton's a port city. I was saying a second ago, right? It's like people come here and then they all go to work, and then it's like, I feel like that's how it started, right? And if you're up there, you
Edmonton
meet people
booms
from
out
everywhere.
of Edmonton booms when the oil fields boom.
I think Edmonton
Like-
too, though. Like Edmonton would survive without the oil fields. They would just end up diversifying.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
no,
it's-
but
yeah,
I'm
it's
saying
all right here.
like Edmonton's economic system is tied a lot now to the oil fields only because of population. So when the oil fields are booming, Edmonton booms more. They're always
Yeah,
going
because
to have
capital,
share,
capital
but
gets pushed back into the.
you know what I
city
mean?
side.
It's like Nova Scotia and
My brother
Newfoundland,
used to
Labrador.
travel
When
from-
fishing
Yo,
season's
I was a
open, everybody's
DJ.
there.
I was
Yeah,
a
so my brother
DJ at
used to-
Showgirls during the boom, brother. You know, money I was making at that club as a DJ, let alone when I worked in the field. Like when Alberta's booming, it's booming. You know what I'm saying?
I had a guy that when we first went, because we were working at the airport here in Ottawa, we both signed up and we both left same time. We got to Edmonton. We got into Edmonton. We had to wait 3 weeks before we could get up to the oil field, do our training course, and
Right.
start. In that time, he said, "Fuck it," because he didn't have a lot of money, and he started working at Leon's. And dude was making money hands over fist at Leon's.
Yeah,
and he
it's
said,
crazy.
"Fuck
Yeah,
the oil
anywhere he
field, I'm
worked.
here." And I went
Yeah.
up to the oil field and I worked there for 3 months. I came back, you know, and anytime I was off, I'd come back into Edmonton
And you
just
get a job
because
anywhere
I'm
you
like,
wanted,
fuck, I'm
just
stuck
'cause,
with,
yeah.
yeah, but I'm
My
stuck
friend in high
with,
school, when I was in
you know
high
what I
school,
mean? Like,
It's not like that anymore at all, though.
2000 and around 2000, my buddy's brother moved to Alberta to work in the oil fields. He worked there for 3 years, came back, bought a car, cashed up, and put like I think it was like 30% down on a home. And
Well,
he's
that's why I came to Alberta.
just working.
Literally,
He bought the home in
I was
Alberta.
living Danforth and Greenwood, paying $800 a month for a basement apartment. You know what I'm saying? $10 an hour on Bay at a call center. My buddy's brother came home with like 40 grand in his pocket. Was like, bro, go to Alberta. I took my last $500, got on a plane, never came back.
yeah, no, like I've worked all over. It's like,
What's the night trying to say, bro? He's been trying to say something. We've been trying.
And yeah, sorry, tonight we've been talking and shit. How you doing?
Is he fucking with you right now?
Okay.
Hello?
Yo, what up?
Yeah, it's people were talking, so I just don't want to shout in between. I came on when there was this Alberta guy who was talking about federal transfers and how the province pays more than it receives.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was when I came in. I wanted to tell him that, I mean, Alberta actually gets more out of the federal government than everyone else.
Yeah, we didn't even get that far. We just, we established that the individual did not know how or understand how federal transfer payments are calculated or how they're actually distributed. So that was
Still get more? Does Alberta still get more or no?
Yes, they do.
They get
bang.
$18 billion every year
Plus,
from the federal government to support the oil fields.
plus they get money that.
But cry about $250 million in equalization payments.
Danielle Smith also gave $20 billion of provincial tax money to oil.
No, it is.
Hold on,
you know the reason why
Oh,
they
and the
think
$100
that?
million for
Hold
the
on,
health
hold on,
care.
okay, I
That
wanna-
ended
let
up
me
going
tell
up
you
there.
One second, I want
It's
to hear
politics.
what the knight had a point. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Tell us what you're gonna say,
It,
brother.
it is politics. It is largely politics. The province, the provincial conservatives, and to some extent the federal conservatives have used this Alberta is being cheated on by the federal government rhetoric all the time to win elections inside of the province. So it's not, don't blame the guy if he lives in Alberta and he thinks that way. It's a function of what we call conservative politics inside of the province of Alberta.
Understood. Hey,
Yeah.
Happy, you got a meeting tonight, by the way. Don't forget. Sorry, Knight. But yeah, Happy, they said in the comments, you got a meeting tonight. Or some shit.
I was just going to tell him that.
Okay. Just to go up, besides that, they also get $35 million for homelessness. They get $8.5 billion for transportation projects.
How are we so homeless, and why does that
Yeah, how we
take
so
long?
how do we so
Exactly.
They get $42 million from the federal government for their education programs.
And how are we still not teaching our kids properly?
Because it goes to the oil fields to cover the wells that they're supposed to pay for out of their $20 billion in profit.
Took them
Exactly.
No, I
15
know
years
that.
to
I'm
build
just being facetious, but like,
But I gotta
I'm
go.
kidding.
Thanks for reminding me that I had a meeting tonight. I gotta go, and you know what? I might restart after the meeting just to tackle this.
I'll be around. But real quick, so
Cool.
with all that money they give, it has to take 15 years to build something to go from the north to the south. It's crazy. Anyways, much love, y'all.
Yeah, same, bro.
Yeah.